Fantasy fanfiction. Fairy tale world. Inherit the sin of pride at the beginning. Chapter 41. Sign in. Open black lens bracket ding. Sign in successfully. Close black lens bracket. Reward. 10 commandments. The magic of purity commandments combo star. Combo star. The more times the combo is performed, the greater the damage caused, and each combo will increase the power by 200,000 pounds. 200,000 pounds of power. Rhodes silently changed his mind. The force of 200,000 pounds is equivalent to 180,000 kilograms, which is about 90 tons. A combo adds 90 tons of power. Hitting 10 times in a row is an additional 900 tons of power. Theoretically, as long as his combos are not interrupted, sooner or later he can superimpose his power to the point where he can defeat the gods. The premise is that his body can withstand such a powerful force. Strong magic power, magical melee skills. Rhodes muttered under his breath. He counted the magic powers and commandments he now mastered. Sun, kindness, robbery, disaster, critical breakthrough, combo star, immortal body. It has offense and defense, can recover and stack buffs. He is now simply a boss-level talent template. Sir Rhodes. When he walked out of the room, he happened to meet Elora, who was wearing a palace dress and walked out of the room. The two of them had a tacit understanding of what happened yesterday. Elora, who originally had no favorable impressions of this guy, now feels much more pleasing to the eye when looking at Rhodes. There seems to be a different kind of emotion in my heart. When I think about marrying this guy, I don't seem to be so repelled anymore. Looking at the princess whose expression was inexplicably cheerful. Rhodes shook his head strangely. Aurora seems to like you very much. At this time, the countess, whose hair was a little messy, quietly walked out of the room. With his hands placed in front of his lower abdomen, every movement is full of elegance and aristocratic manners. Looking at the princess's back, the countess showed a gentle look on her elegant face. No one could have imagined such a noble countess who seemed inviolable. Will take the initiative to serve a man who has only met once. Rhodes couldn't help but sigh when he thought of her look with her hair disheveled and dripping with sweat. It is said that the succubus race is the most dissolute and shameless race in the world. However, these aristocratic women have extraordinary backgrounds and have undergone special professional studies since childhood. Even more so than a succubus. Your kneeling posture is beautiful, I like it very much. If you like it, you might as well stay a few more days. Count Francis will probably be very happy. The countess blushed slightly and said pointedly. After all, when Rhodes and the princess complete their union, they will become the future heirs of the Francis kingdom. It would be impossible to serve in such an unscrupulous and above-board manner. Although the upper-class nobles were promiscuous, they were not really without bottom lines and morals, if Rhodes' status was transformed into her son-in-law. Even if she continues to stay overnight, it has nothing to do with her. Princess Aurora will serve personally. How can a mother steal her daughter's husband? How can you refuse the countess's kindness? What does it have to do with me? You want to stay overnight. If you don't want to, how can I force you to stay? The corners of the countess' mouth rose slightly, but she immediately restrained her expression. He glanced at Rhodes coldly, with a trace of moisture in his charming and confused eyes. He held his head up reservedly, exposing his white neck, like a noble swan, slowly leaving. Is this considered aristocratic reserve? Rhodes shook his head. When dining in the palace, he was the only one left with the count's family, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious. Even Count Francis looked at him much softer. It seemed that after he accepted the countess's service, he became his own person overnight. Rhodes looked at the countess who was eating elegantly with an expressionless face. The knife and fork skillfully cut off a piece of food and put it in his mouth. The bright red lips seemed to exude a different kind of temptation. It reminds people subconsciously of the exorcism process yesterday. Noticing his gaze, the countess picked up a napkin and wiped her mouth, seeming to cast a vague glance at him. A simple look seemed to say everything, but also seemed to say nothing. Rhodes couldn't help but sigh, he was worthy of being a noble. He can't learn this acting skill. After having a simple breakfast, Rhodes left the palace. He was driven to the hotel in a carriage by several soldiers. I thought you were arrested when you didn't come back all night. Yulia, who was leaning against the corridor wall, looked at Rhodes with unspeakable sarcasm. There was a hint of amusement in his tone that he didn't notice. As a legendary archmage, she often interacts with various high-class people, and she knows very well the rules among nobles. Being left in the palace, it didn't take much to know that this must have been very comfortable last night. Maybe you can even have a feast cooked by the countess herself. Most of these high-end aristocratic women are proficient in cooking, especially the following techniques which are passed down from their ancestors. It can make a man want to stop after eating it. This obviously already has several cooks, but he still wants to eat noodles cooked by other women. How can a man eat food cooked by so many women? What a greedy thing. Jealousy is not a good habit. Women should be more generous. Rhodes glanced at her. He has such a big appetite, how can he be full with the little food at home? If he doesn't go out to hunt for wild food, do he want to starve to death? Who is jealous? Haha, I am a legendary archmage. Have you ever heard of the Flame Queen? If the men in the imperial capital who want to pursue me can line up in the western continent, will I fall in love with you? Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Outrageous. Yulia almost jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Rhodes looked at the woman who was blushing and even stuttering, and rolled his eyes speechlessly. Why are you reacting so harshly? When did I say you fell in love with me? I mean, you're jealous that I was invited by the Earl and didn't invite you. But, Rhodes rubbed his chin and suddenly approached Yulia. With one hand, he pressed the woman directly against the wall. The two were so close that their chests were almost touching. The warm embrace made Yulia tilt her head unnaturally. The smell full of male hormones gave her an indescribable feeling. Rhodes smelled the light body fragrance of the woman and sounded playful. You're so reactive, you're not really interested in me, are you? I don't mind if you want to. Go away. Who would like an arrogant man like you? Yulia, who had a furious expression on her face, found the strength to push Rhodes away. I still have to teach Brittany magic classes, so I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Looking at the back of Yulia leaving in a panic. Rhodes rubbed his chin with a strange look in his eyes. This grumpy woman couldn't really be interested in him. Lady Yulia, why is your face so red? In the room, Brittany, who was meditating, opened her eyes. Looking at Yulia who hurriedly walked in without saying a word and drank 2 large glasses of water, she couldn't help but be a little confused. It's too hot outside. Also, didn't I tell you to call me teacher? Yulia slapped her face and suddenly changed the subject. No, the master is my teacher. Brittany shook her head stubbornly. Nonsense. All your magic knowledge was taught by me, what does it have to do with him? Yulia became angry when she mentioned this matter. Disciples who have been taught by themselves regard others as teachers. But, you were captured by your master. Looking at the angry Yulia, Brittany's tone was a little weak. Who taught you to talk like this? Yulia was speechless and choked. Although he wanted to refute it, but thinking about it carefully, it was Rhodes' ability to capture her and teach this little girl magic. The credit should really go to Rhodes. How's your meditation going? Yulia sighed, not wanting to tangle with this stubborn girl anymore. All this girl can think about is that Rhodes. If Rhodes said anything, she would probably be willing to let this kid die. You can already feel the fire element. Brittany whispered, looking very unsure of herself. So fast. Yulia looked surprised. When she first felt the fire element, it took her more than half a month. Already called a genius by her mentor. This child's talent is really terrifying. No wonder she will be the most powerful flame mage in the Empire in the future. He can be called the strongest flame mage, and he must be at least a saint-level magician. Now that you have felt the element of fire, it means that you are qualified to release magic. Next, I will teach you how to extract magic power. Having magic power means that you have entered the ranks of a real mage. While Yulia was practicing the religion seriously, Rhodes was in the house completing the exorcism task that Euphemia had missed yesterday. Under the infusion of holy water and baptism, the liquefied and viscous demonic energy was expelled from the body. It's really difficult to eradicate it from being polluted by the devil's evil energy. Rhodes sighed, no wonder everyone hated demons. However, who makes him have such a heavy sense of responsibility? When leaving the room, she happened to bump into the expressionless young girl Fleur. Seeing Rhodes, a slight blush appeared on Fleur's expressionless face. Although the previous thing was done by the second personality under the succubus, she felt all the feelings. It's no different than playing in person. It's not good to be too innocent. It needs to be properly trained. Rhodes looked at Fleur, whose ears were red and seemed to have disappeared when she ran away. Decided to exorcise demons next time during the first personality. How could he, a servant of a professional exorcist, not be able to adapt to the process of exorcism? Next, it's time to get down to business. Rhodes stretched and looked towards the outside of the castle. The demon was exorcised and the benefits were taken away. The beautiful princess is still waiting for him to lift the curse. The only thing missing from the rice bowl is soup. So, the troll must die. Rhodes rode the treasury guard and rushed towards the troll camp. Is this the troll camp? In the distance, Rhodes saw strange buildings. The house made of irregular stones is full of a rough sense of history. Each stone house is 7 or 8 meters high. There are not many in number, only a few dozen. Let's have a greeting first. Rhodes raised his palm expressionlessly, and a bright light slowly condensed. The sun without mercy. Boom. After a few breaths, violent flames exploded in the troll camp. Roar. A violent roar resounded, shattering the entire cloud. A troll with its body burning with flames descended from the sky. It has a sharp nose and ears, and looks similar to a goblin, but its body is more burly, its body is full of strong muscles, and it holds a pitch-black spear in its hand. The terrifying figure was 4 to 5 meters tall, with strange lines etched on its skin. Ancient troll. Rhodes raised his eyebrows. The size of ordinary trolls is only 2 or 3 meters. The only trolls with this size are ancient trolls. An ancient troll with a violent personality and a fierce fighting spirit. It has huge strength and physique, has the talent of becoming gigantic, and is extremely resistant to magic. No wonder he survived being burned by his son Fire. One after another, the trolls walked out of the sea of fire. The largest one was nearly 10 meters tall. This should be the leader of this group of trolls. Rhodes found that the strength of this group of trolls was somewhat different from what Count Francis said. The strength of the leader of the trolls is at least legendary level. The remaining trolls are also quite terrifying in strength. It would be easy for such a group of trolls to overthrow a kingdom of earls. The reason why the kingdom of Francis was not destroyed was simply due to good luck and not being discovered by the trolls. Rhodes put his hands in his pockets and watched expressionlessly as a group of trolls approached. Soon, a dozen oppressive ancient trolls surrounded Rhodes in a condescending manner. I heard that the ancient trolls are very powerful. I just want to try it. Proud. The troll leader roared, with undisguised contempt in his eyes. Ancient troll, power reigns supreme. Except for the royal family Beeman of the giant dragon clan and the orc clan, no other clan is looked down upon by them. The tiny human being in front of him actually wanted to compete with them. The smallest ancient troll walked out from among the trolls, brandished the thick stone club in his hand, and smashed it down in the direction of Rhodes. You look down on me so much. I'm really offended again. Rhodes helplessly stretched his muscles and slowly raised the divine axe in his hand. Critical breakthrough. Boom. He waved forward lightly, and the terrifying air waves raged like a storm. Puff. The body of the troll touched by the divine axe instantly twisted and expanded, and exploded into a ball of blood mist. The flesh and blood crushed by the huge force were scattered on the ground like raindrops. Directly ahead, an uninhabited passage stretching for thousands of meters was cleared. The terrifying blow directly caused all the trolls to fall into a sluggish state. Immediately afterwards, the troll leader reacted, his eyes turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and Yongtian roared. All the trolls fell into rage. More than a dozen thick stone pillars were smashed down fiercely. Rhodes slowly extended his palm. Magic power snatched. Group hunting. A powerful magic power instantly enveloped the surrounding area. All the power of the trolls was directly forcibly plundered. Rhodes' body instantly swelled to 4 or 5 meters, and the divine axe in his hand was held like a toy. Puff. The axe blade was swung, and the violent power directly annihilated an ancient troll. Blessed by combo star magic. The power of each of Rhodes' strikes increases dramatically. In a few breaths, only one troll leader was left among the dozen trolls. Rhodes had a nonchalant look on his face. The sarcasm was filled with arrogance from the bottom of his heart. It seems a bit weak. Weak. How dare a mere human being be so arrogant? The troll leader's bloodshot eyes instantly became extremely bloodshot. The hatred of the massacre of his race, coupled with the indifference in his bones, made his blood tremble. A powerful aura emerged from the body of the troll leader. The troll, whose body was filled with a bloody aura, suddenly swung down the stone club in his hand. Boom! Rhodes swung an axe. The troll leader took 2 steps back, a ferocious look on his ferocious face, and his blood boiled even more. Thick veins appeared on the surface of the body, and there seemed to be faint runes of law emerging. Even his body shape seemed to have grown in size instantly. Awakening of bloodline. Rhodes raised his eyebrows. Trolls are descendants of the giant family. A very small number of trolls with strong blood can awaken the power of giants. Strength will also undergo dramatic changes. He didn't expect that this troll leader would awaken the power of blood. But, what's the use of exploding your seed? Absolute power cannot change any outcome. Rhodes smiled arrogantly and swung the divine axe forward. Combo star magic keeps stacking up. In the blink of an eye, the combo stars have been stacked up to more than 50 levels. Boom! With a single wave of his hand, he can exert more than 10,000 tons of power. Directly blast the troll leader away. The troll leader who has awakened his bloodline has not just experienced this state of getting braver and braver as he fights. He was suppressed by Rhodes' rapidly increasing power and faced a head-on attack. The entire troll's face was filled with a confused and unbelievable expression of shock. Why, a human being can be so powerful? Isn't this guy really a dragon transformed from the giant dragon clan? Resist. Boom. Dance. Boom. Keep coming with me. Puff. Rhodes jumped up high and struck the troll leader's head with an axe from a condescending position. The troll leader roared and raised the stone club in his hand to resist. But the power of this human being is too terrifying, like a huge mountain pressing down on him. The troll leader couldn't bear the pressure and was knocked to one knee by Rhodes with a jumping chop. The stone stick in his hand had already been shattered. Rhodes swung his axe, and the axe blade landed on the hard arm bone of the troll leader. The violent power directly caused the blood vessels all over the troll leader's body to burst. Below the gods, I am invincible. Above the gods, I am invincible. A troll who is not even a saint, who gave you the courage to explode in front of me? Rhodes' eyes were cold, looking at the troll leader as if he were looking at a piece of garbage. The troll leader, whose body was covered in bruises and bruises, lay helplessly on the ground, completely losing the strength to struggle. Rhodes put his foot on the troll's head. Under the shadow, there was indifference in the lowered eyes. The game ends here. The defeat of the troll leader represents 3 trials for Count Francis, 2 of which he has already completed. There is only one last test left, and he can become the husband of Princess Aurora openly. Marry the princess. Thinking about it, I'm really looking forward to it. Does this count as marrying Baphomet and reaching the pinnacle of life? However, Earl Francis is in his prime and his body is very strong. It seems that there will be no problems in 20 years. He can just take the princess to be cool outside. After cutting off the head of the troll leader, Rhodes embarked on his return journey. In the palace, he looked at the head of the troll leader brought by Rhodes. After a brief shock, Count Francis suppressed his inner excitement. The 3rd test was mentioned. It was also a test that Rhodes had long guessed. Defeating or killing the Banshee in the Forest of Silence proves that you have the strength to defeat the Banshee. Only in this way can you be qualified to break the curse on the princess. Count Francis's tone was serious. The original Banshee used powerful magic to cast a cruel spell on his daughter. Only a strong man who can defeat her can break her curse. As long as you can defeat the Banshee, it naturally means you have the qualifications to break the curse. The first 2 tests are just to select brave men with sufficient strength and eliminate 2 threats to the kingdom. Originally, there should be another choice for the 2nd test, but the appearance of the group of trolls disrupted his plan. However, the good thing is that the result is perfect. However, the first 2 tests are at best an appetizer. The 3rd test is the real highlight. Deal with the Banshee in the forest. Rhodes nodded. This test was not unexpected at all. He looked towards the sky outside the palace. The sun hangs high above the head, and even in autumn with a hint of chill, there is still an indescribable warmth and heat. When the sun is in the center, it reaches its peak. And he is about to reach his peak state. Although the location was not favorable, the timing was on his side. In heaven and on earth, I am the only one. At 1 minute at noon, even if he faced the arrival of the true God, there was absolutely no way he could lose. No matter how you think about this game, it seems like a sure win. The banquet is ready. I'll come as soon as I can. Rhodes left the palace and walked directly towards the Forest of Tranquility. What a warrior! Looking at that confident and arrogant figure, Count Francis couldn't help but sigh. If he had such generals under his command, why would he be just a count? Between the castle and the forest, there is a river and a small plain. Rhodes was riding a dog, galloping across the plains at great speed. After a few minutes, outside the quiet forest, Rhodes holds the scorching sun in his hand, like a true god descending. The sun without mercy. A flash of light shone, and the thorny jungle shrouded outside the silent forest was instantly burned away. Rhodes walked into the forest as if he didn't recognize his relatives. Roar. The roar of the beast rang in my ears, like the roar of thunder. Several dark-haired jungle monsters rushed over from the shadows. The strong aura of death and decay made Rhodes frown. Trees and nature, originally symbols of life, were replaced by a force of death and decay. The power of death pollutes life, but it retains the most basic vitality. Therefore, this weird imagination was created. This deformed monster of life and decay coexisting. This forest is really weird. Rhodes muttered under his breath. Even if it is affected by the magic power of a sacred banshee, it is impossible for all creatures in the forest to mutate. Although the sanctuary is powerful, it is essentially just a mortal with the power of superficial rules. It is impossible to change the nature of life on a large scale from the source. In particular, a large-scale virgin forest like the Forest of Tranquility covers an area of dozens of square kilometers. If you want to completely pollute such a large forest, I am afraid that only the power of the demigod level can do it. This method is more like coming from the devil. Boom! Rhodes swung his axe and the sun's fire turned into a curtain of light, easily killing all the demonic creatures in front of him. Before taking 2 steps, another demonized giant eagle flew from behind. Rhodes turned slightly and missed the attack of the demonized giant eagle, and was about to escape at a very fast speed. You're already here, why are you leaving? Rhodes threw the magic axe out of his hand. The rotating axe blade emitted a blazing light, easily killing the demonized giant eagle, and then fell downwards. Huh! Rhodes was surprised, and suddenly felt that the connection between himself and Rita the axe was blocked. The Lord of Hell is stirring up trouble. Rhodes couldn't figure it out. Who dares to be so bold and even dare to touch his things? He didn't have anything to worry about. After all, Rita, the axe, had a spirit and recognized her master. Only he can control and use it. It is difficult for others to pick it up. Rhodes walked forward slowly, and a river full of divine radiance gradually appeared in front of his eyes. Aha! A flash of light flashed. Mighty and brave warrior, may I ask if you dropped something? A kind figure exuding divine light floated above the river. Looking at him kindly, Rhodes raised his eyelids. River God. River God. Looking at the figure floating on the river, Rhodes had a strange look in his eyes. Although his body is filled with the glory of divinity, this guy is obviously not a real god. The real god is the incarnation of rules, and his personality is too powerful. Once one exalts the kingdom of God, he will be expelled by the will of the world to the star realm outside the world. It is the residence of the gods, and every star in the star world is the manifestation of the kingdom of a god. Only at great cost is it possible to invest one's power and incarnation into the material plane. Since the river god in front of him can freely appear in the material plane, he definitely cannot be a real god. At best, he is a false god, trying to spread faith through this legendary method in an attempt to become a true god. Just need to show up occasionally and help a few lucky people achieve their wishes, and the reputation will spread and gain a group of believers. And all he paid was some insignificant treasure. But what race is this guy? Rhodes looked at the river god and gently rubbed his chin. Although it looks like a human being, it is obvious that this thing is definitely not human. Instead, it looks a bit like a goblin. Who are you? Rhodes became interested and planned to play with this guy to see if he could get some benefits. He asked with a look of confusion on his face. I am the river god of this river, young brave man, did you just throw away something? The river god looked at Rhodes with a loving expression and gave a hint. If he doesn't answer this, he won't be able to perform in the next scene. When Rhodes heard this, a look of distress appeared on his face. Yes, my axe fell into the river. This is the only axe I have. Seeing Rhodes being so sensible, the smile on the river god's face became even brighter. With a wave of his hand, a burst of golden light burst out from under the river. Then what you dropped is this axe made of gold. Immediately afterwards, a burst of silvery white light burst out, and the river god continued to speak. It's still this axe made of silver. Rhodes shook his head. Neither. Then what you dropped should be this ordinary axe that exudes divinity. Seeing that Rhodes was such a city, the river god's eyes became even more appreciative. Society is complex and people's hearts are cold and warm. We have seen a lot of greedy people, but it is really rare that such an honest person can accompany him to the end of a play. The river god was suddenly startled as he thought about it. An axe that exudes divinity. Why does an ordinary axe exude divinity? A bad thought flashed through his mind, and Rhodes stood by the river and slowly shook his head. Not this either. Choose one of three. That's what kids do. Want them all. That's what immature young people do. A real man must dare to innovate. The river god, who was looking at a loss, then became completely stupid. What I dropped is an artifact axe that can be big or small, long or short, its weight is controllable, and it can fly back automatically at any time. Rhodes said seriously. The old face of the river god suddenly turned red with anger. He is the river god, not the wishing god. Why don't you leave this to make a wish for me? Greedy human beings are destined to be unable to obtain anything. With a splash, the river god disappeared into the water with 3 axes. It was clear that Rhodes was not even going to give him the axe. This kind of divine artifact is a rare good thing. This wave is really profitable. The Lord of Hell is making trouble with your head. Your angle is very tricky. Rhodes smiled slightly and slowly raised his palm. In the palm of his hand, violent flames gathered and turned into a huge sun in the blink of an eye. Trees withered and leaves were set on fire. The scorching heat caused the surrounding temperature to rise to an absurd level. All the demonized creatures with a radius of several kilometers fled far away in an instant. Even this boiling river has been evaporated by the extreme high temperature, and it will disappear soon. The river god hiding in the river finally couldn't sit still. Although it claims to be the river god, it is not a real god after all. You must rely on rivers to survive. He is an elf born from this river. Through the branches of the rivers, it flows to all parts of the northern countries, spreading the legend of the river god. This river is equivalent to his life and foundation. If this river was destroyed, he might not be able to become a true god in this life. As for fighting, he is the opponent of this monster. Looking at the flames that were hotter than the sun, he felt frightened in his heart. If they really fight, they will be burned out in a matter of minutes. He is a river god, so how can he get his fighting power? This powerful adventurer, this is your divine axe. Now it has returned to its original owner. Please let me go. Looking at the pleading river god, Rhodes calmly did not even look at him. What I dropped is an axe that can be big or small, long or short, and can fly back on its own. What does this ordinary axe have to do with me? If I can't find my axe, I can only evaporate the river water and look for it myself. Holding the power of the sun in his hand, Rhodes said casually. Since this river god is causing trouble in front of him, don't blame him for peeling off a layer of its skin. He has always taken advantage of others. He even dared to swallow his things. This was the first time I had seen him so bold. The helpless river god looked at the water level of the river getting lower and lower, and Rhodes' face that showed no room for negotiation. He slapped his chest cruelly, and a ball of power exuding divine brilliance was directly integrated into the divine axe Rita. The only way to change the effect of an artifact is to add more divinity to it. In order to transform this axe, this ball of divine power was equivalent to the faith he had accumulated over hundreds of years. It can be said to be a massive hemorrhage. Sir Adventurer, did you drop this axe that can be large or small, has a controllable weight, and can fly back on its own? His heart was bleeding, and the river god had to show a flattering expression on his face. Yes, I dropped the axe. Rhodes picked up the axe handed over by the river god. As the magic power poured into it, the axe instantly expanded several times. Immediately afterwards, it shrank to the size of a palm for an instant. After a little experimentation, Rhodes felt satisfied. The axe can be enlarged or reduced, which is not only easy to carry, but most importantly, it can also be used normally even in a huge state. Occasionally it can be thrown away like a hidden weapon. Anyway, you can fly back by yourself. Rhodes wanted to squeeze the river god some more, but looking at the way his body had been hollowed out, it didn't look like there was anything good left. As a human being, the most taboo thing is to be greedy. The god axe has evolved, and its power and functionality have been greatly enhanced. For him, it was already an unexpected surprise. Even if he went back empty-handed this time, he wouldn't be at a loss. Of course, the most important thing now is to find traces of the sanctuary banshee. Complete the last of the 3 trials and marry Princess by Fume. Everything else must be discussed later. With such a big movement, it stands to reason that we should have discovered it. Rhodes looked up at the sky. Unless that sanctuary banshee is deaf. It's coming. Rhodes covered the sun with his hands and looked towards the sky. Above the sky, flocks of birds came overwhelmingly. It was as if a dark cloud hung over the forest of silence. Boom! There was a terrifying trampling sound, and the ground trembled. Pairs of green eyes emerged from the bushes, and the dense beasts and monsters surrounded them. All the monsters were scratching the ground restlessly, as if they might attack at any time. But it seemed like he was waiting for orders. Tap tap tap. The herd of beasts suddenly dispersed through a passage, and a woman wearing a long black dress walked out of the herd. High cheekbones, a pair of devil-like horns, a somewhat coquettish appearance, flaming red lips, and most importantly, a big mouth. Rhodes doesn't appreciate this overly Western look at all. However, for people in this world, this appearance is quite marketable. Why is this guy out? A trace of fear flashed in the eyes of the river god, and he immediately sank into the river with a splash. Humanity. The woman's voice was hoarse, and she ignored the disappearing river god. Her dark eyes were full of malice, staring at Rhodes. No humans are welcome to enter the forest of tranquility. Are you teaching me how to do something? Rhodes held the divine axe on his shoulders and grinned to both sides. Yell looked at this banshee with terrifying magic power on her body with interest. There was an undisguised malice in those eyes that had been severely corroded by the power of the abyss. It is estimated that if she were not afraid of his strength, this woman would have killed him immediately. The forest banshee is essentially a neutral and kind-oriented race. To have such great malice is naturally influenced by external forces. And he was still very familiar with this power. It was similar to the aura of the abyss evil god he killed last time. These demons are really troublemakers, they can be found everywhere. Rhodes sighed, but the issues that needed to be dealt with still had to be dealt with. This banshee has had her mind corrupted by the power of the abyss, and it would be a disaster to keep her here. It would be better to resolve it as soon as possible, which would be beneficial to everyone. Although the sun is not at its peak at noon, it should be enough to deal with you. Rhodes raised his divine axe, and his body glowed with blazing light. Shrouded in radiance, Rhodes transformed into the king of the sun. The divine axe expanded and expanded, instantly turning into a golden battle axe more than 10 meters long. Boom! With one strike of the axe, everything in front of him was turned into coke in the high temperature. Bah! The banshee opened her mouth, revealing 2 rows of sharp teeth. A terrifying sound struck Rhodes. The sound contained the magic of decay and death, turning everything in its path into ashes. Commandments. Love. The terrifying power dissipated the moment it came into contact with Rhodes. Rhodes dusted himself off and looked at the confused banshee. He showed a look that could not tell whether it was ridicule or contempt. That's all. Magic sun. Magic power snatched. Magic disaster. Critical breakthrough. Rhodes directly superimposed a set of buffs on his body, reaching the ultimate level instantly. Sunfall. A mixture of the power of the sun and the abyss condensed into a pitch-black sun, exuding the aura of annihilating everything. Although it was not as good as the blow that killed the evil god of the abyss, he was not facing an immortal evil god. It's just a sanctuary-level banshee. The dark sun explodes. The terrifying power of annihilation instantly strangled the banshee. Rhodes put one hand on his waist and looked relaxed. Isn't it a bit too simple? As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, Rhodes saw the banshee he had killed resurrected by an aura full of life force. Human, you can't kill me in this forest. There was a hint of fear in the banshee's dark eyes. The blow just now was the breath of death she had never felt before. It was the first time that she felt death was so close. The banshee born in the forest is loved by this forest. Unless the forest is destroyed, your life will never end. Rhodes sighed at the wonder of the world. His tone suddenly became cold. Since killing you is useless, if I destroy this forest, will you survive? A blazing sun condensed in Rhodes' hands. The sun, which is hundreds of meters in diameter, radiates high temperatures that burn everything. All the surrounding trees withered and shrank in the high temperature. No. A flash of emerald green flashed in the banshee's dark eyes. Weirdly, he regained some consciousness from his demonic state and rushed towards Rhodes. The exploding sun. Rhodes murmured quietly. With him as the center, the terrifying power of the sun poured out unbridled. The dark forest was illuminated by light, and everything perished in the brilliance of the sun. The banshee that was so close was directly obliterated by the power of the sun. Buzz. A burst of light full of life burst out from the depths of the silent forest, turning into emerald green raindrops falling. The blazing brilliance of the sun was silently replaced by a green life force. The withered forest has also regained its vitality. There is such a thing. Rhodes squinted his eyes and looked at the center of the silent forest. Although I don't know what it is, to be able to wipe out his power so easily must be at least a demigod-level existence. Driven by curiosity, Rhodes walked towards the center of the forest. The banshee, who was resurrected again, pounced on Rhodes like she was going crazy. Puff! Rhodes swung his axe and smashed the newly resurrected banshee. Although the banshee can be resurrected indefinitely, it does not come without any cost. Every time she is resurrected, the banshee's power will drop to a lower level. Strength is incomparable. But now, at noon when the sun is hottest, his magic power is comparable to that of a demigod. In half an hour, the sun will reach its peak, and even if the true god comes, he will not take it seriously. A mere banshee with legendary combat power wants to stop him. I'm afraid I'm thinking too much. The deeper you go, the taller and denser the surrounding trees become, and the more powerful the living monsters become. Rhodes pushed all the way, killing all the monsters that stopped him. 10 minutes later, the banshee was killed again, and the narrow forest suddenly became empty. An open space covering several kilometers appeared in front of Rhodes. In the center of the open space, a small tree as thick as one person could hug it exuded an amazing breath of life. On the trunk of the tree, a fat and ugly insect was constantly eating the branches and leaves of the tree. The tree, which is full of emerald green patterns and filled with an ancient atmosphere, has gray-white scars appearing as insects gnaw on it. Tree of Life. Rhodes was slightly surprised. Isn't this thing exclusive to the elf forest? Tree of Life. The origin of the elves. It is said that the ancestor of the elves was born from this tree. The forest of elves is close to tens of millions of kilometers in size, and all species and plants are bred from the Tree of Life. Therefore, it is not an exaggeration to say that the Tree of Life is the holy tree in belief of the elves. But why is there a sapling of the Tree of Life here? Rhodes rubbed his chin and looked at the inconspicuous sapling. Although it has not grown up yet, this terrifying vitality is indeed the Tree of Life. I heard that the Tree of Life breeds several seeds every 1,000 years. However, the seeds of the Tree of Life seem to be kept by the royal family of the elves. The seeds of the Tree of Life contain powerful vitality. Even a dying god will be healed of all injuries instantly after taking it. It can even resurrect the life that has just died and extend its lifespan for thousands of years. However, I have never heard that the seeds of the Tree of Life can be planted. Of course, there is also a possibility that planting the Tree of Life requires too much cost. Even the elves can't afford it. The precious Tree of Life seeds can only be used as consumables. Rhodes looked at the somewhat malnourished Tree of Life in front of him. The eyes are a little weird. The legendary Tree of Life is tens of thousands of meters high, and countless elves and species live on the tree. The tree spirit of the Tree of Life even possesses power comparable to that of the gods. In comparison, this tree of life sapling, which is less than 10 meters tall, can only be regarded as a small sapling. Although I don't know why the seedlings of the tree of life appear here. But what is certain is that it was the emergence of the tree of life that gave birth to this quiet forest. The tree of life is a hotbed, and everything in the forest of tranquility relies on the tree of life to exist. If there is a problem with the tree of life seedlings, there will be problems in the entire forest of tranquility. Now, the saplings of the tree of life are corrupted and tainted by the abyssal worm. Therefore, the entire silent forest became eerily silent. Even the forest banshee is controlled by this abyss worm. If we kill this thing, the forest of tranquility will return to normal, right? After all, he is also the future heir to the kingdom of Francis. The starting point naturally has to be from the perspective of a king. Such a forest that is rich in resources would be better left intact if it could not be destroyed. This quiet forest alone is enough to feed hundreds of thousands of people. It's such a shame to ruin it. Now that the source of the problem has been found, all that's left is to solve it. Rhodes dragged his axe and came to the tree of life seedling. Puff! The axe he swung directly hit the abyss worm. The abyss worm that was attacked let out a shrill wail. Immediately afterwards, a ferocious mouthpart grew out of his lower body and turned into a two-headed worm. The mouthparts at the end of the tail are firmly on the tree of life, and dense tentacles of flesh and blood spread along the veins of the tree of life. Gudong gudong. The abyss worm sucked crazily, continuously absorbing the life essence from the tree of life saplings. Rhodes cut off the abyss worm's body with an axe, but the broken body of the abyss worm grew back again in the next second. No wonder this guy wasn't killed. Rhodes was still wondering just now, how could an abyss worm, which was at best a legendary level, make the sanctuary banshee helpless? I didn't expect this thing to be parasitic on plants. If you try to kill it, the sapling of the tree of life will probably not survive. If this worm is not killed, the seedlings of the tree of life will sooner or later be devoured. One is immediate death, the other is chronic suicide. No difference, Rhodes thought, slowly looking at the crazy abyss worm. At this moment, the abyss worm, sensing the crisis, was frantically sucking the life essence of the tree of life. Originally only about 1 meter in size, it reached about 5 meters in the blink of an eye. The tree of life, which had been devoured a large amount of life essence, became withered and yellow, and the few leaves fell off. After reaching 5 meters in size, the abyss worm stopped absorbing life force. Dark silk threads spewed out from the huge body, wrapping itself into a huge cocoon. Inside the cocoon, the terrifying power of the abyss filled the air, and the low heartbeat echoed like a war drum. It seems like something terrifying is brewing. Rhodes raised a brow. Is this evolved? You evolved in front of me, you really don't take me seriously. Rhodes swings the axe blade. Boom! The violent sun fire exploded and swallowed up the entire cocoon. Evolve in front of him. He is not a Sabi villain, just watching the protagonist become stronger. The dark silkworm cocoon was instantly melted, and the worms transforming inside the cocoon could be vaguely seen. The abyss worms that were attacked accelerated their speed of devouring life essence. The dull heartbeat was like a war drum, just when Rhodes was about to land his second axe. A blue-gray claw covered with dense scales tore through the cocoon. A huge figure jumped out of the cocoon and rushed towards Rhodes condescendingly. You've evolved and you think you're good. Rhodes twitched the corner of his mouth, and the aura on his body instantly became violent and wanton. Critical breakthrough. The magic power is continuously transformed into power. With the help of terrifying power, Rhodes' size expanded to almost the same size as his opponent. The divine axe in his hand quickly grew in size and fell from the sky. Boom! The deafening roar spread throughout the countryside. The ground beneath his feet cracked inch by inch, and the earth with a radius of hundreds of meters sank deep into the ground under the collision of terrifying forces. Veins suddenly appeared on his arms, and Rhodes' slightly squinted eyes opened. Boom! The demon in the wrestling match was directly blasted away, and after landing, it slid along the ground for thousands of meters. The ground was like a meteor falling, and a huge pit was created. Waste is waste, even if it evolves 10 times it is still waste. Rhodes held the divine axe upside down, and his oppressive figure slowly walked out of the hole. He opened his mouth and let out a hot breath, as if a blazing sun was slowly rising behind him. The peak at noon has arrived. In heaven and on earth, I am the only one who is supreme. The fog cleared, and a demon crawled out of the ground. It has a humanoid body, its legs are as thick as ox hooves, and its legs are covered with dense growth. The blue-gray skin on the upper body, the muscles like steel, and the fiery red light in the chest flickered and undulated with the beating of the heart, as if it contained a ball of magma. With a ferocious face and two thick green horns on the top of his head, he stepped on it and the ground cracked. The Hell Bull demon looked up to the sky and roared, exuding an aura that was even more powerful than the sanctuary banshee. Although he has not reached the level of a demigod, he is only just a hair short of it. And as the price of his transformation, the originally green and lush tree of life sapling was close to withering. Only a trace of life essence is left to hang on to the last vitality. Too weak. Rhodes moved his shoulders. The blow just now did not cause any harm to him at all. For an opponent of this level, he doesn't even need to activate the ability of the discipline of kindness. It wouldn't do him any harm anyway. It will only be a waste of magic power. The withering of the tree of life. The entire silent forest has lost its vitality and vitality. The ground is dry, the leaves are withered, and the grass is yellow. Every tree, and even every monster in the silent forest, became dying. Human, in the name of the Abyss Demon, I acknowledge your power. With the strength of the two of us, if we fight here, we will both lose. It's better to let this matter go. I forgive your offense and will immediately leave this world and return to the Abyss. The Hell Bull demon's voice was low, and he looked at Rhodes with fear in his eyes. He is an Abyss demon, with rage and the desire to kill flowing in his bones. Bloodlust and killing are his nature. Being able to bow down and compromise to a human being in such a humble manner is enough to prove how powerful this human being is. He felt an aura more powerful than that of the Abyss Demon Lord from this human being. That is a power comparable to that of a god. You just said, both sides suffer. Rhodes stretched his muscles and looked at the Minotaur opposite with a smile. The next second, the ground shook violently. Rhodes' figure disappeared instantly and appeared in front of the bull demon before it could react. The oppressive figure looked down at the bull demon who was one head lower than him. Under the shadow, those cold eyes revealed a disregard for life. Violation of the rules. What a pair of arrogant eyes. The bull demon was sweating coldly. The Abyss demon's instincts had a very weak concept of fear. But now, he really felt the feeling that death was close at hand. The fear from his soul made his whole body tremble. Are you worthy? You fool. Rhodes had a wild laugh on his face. On the falling axe blade, the bright light shines like the sun. Falling with a crash, the bull demon struggled to resist, but was directly blown away by the violent flames. There was undisguised contempt in Rhodes' eyes. This minute at the peak of noon, he didn't even pay attention to the gods. A demon who is not even a demigod. Why should you negotiate terms with him? The blazing fire of the sun emerged on the surface of the body, and the terrifying high temperature caused the surrounding space to twist and break. In the golden eyes, blazing flames flowed like lava. Being stared at by those eyes gave me the illusion of being burned to death. The whole world seems to be burning. Magic power snatched. Magic disaster. Critical breakthrough. Magic combo star. Countless magical effects exploded, and Rhodes felt that his power had been superimposed to the extreme. The terrifying power spread within the body, and the body seemed to be unable to withstand the strong pressure, bursting apart inch by inch. Before the blood had time to flow out, it was restored by the immortal body at an extremely fast speed. The axe fell with unparalleled power. The bull demon was directly smashed into the ground by the overwhelming force. The sun without mercy. Rhodes condensed a sun, raised his hand and threw it directly into the ground. Flames burned and spewed out from the ground, and the ground was burned into crystals by the terrifying high temperature. Looking at the bull demon who had been motionless for a long time, Rhodes also slowly came out of his strongest state. There has been no movement for such a long time, so it must be gone. You left a mess for me. Looking at the withered and dead forest, Rhodes felt a little troubled. Walk slowly to the seedlings of the Tree of Life. The seedlings of the Tree of Life, whose life essence has been sucked clean, are filled with an aura of decay and death. It seems that life has come to an end. The entire silent forest was completely shrouded in an aura of death. When the seedlings of the tree of life die, the forest dies too. After all, they exist because of the tree of life. I'm sorry for the hurt I've caused you, but it's all coming to an end now. The curse I left behind will disappear after I die. The forest banshee, who didn't know when she appeared behind her, looked at the tree of life that was about to die, with an indifferent expression on her face. Although the tree of life dies, she will also die with it, but this may be their fate. It is born with the birth of the mother tree and ends with the death of the mother tree. Like a mayfly perched on a tall tree. The curse is gone. That won't work. Rhodes was a little unhappy after hearing this. He did so many things just for a curse. Curse gone. Was it all a waste of time to play along with him? Brother Luo is very happy that you are so sensible, but Brother Luo is very unhappy that you made the curse disappear. The banshee was confused. Didn't this human enter the forest just to lift the curse? Now he looks like he doesn't want the curse to go away. Even if you want to stop it, it's already too late. The mother tree will die soon. The banshee shook her head. If she was not helpless, who would want to meet the god of death? Nothing is absolute. Rhodes walked over to the withered tree of life sapling and stretched out an arm. Make a cut on your wrist. Slowing down the healing speed of the wound, a few drops of blood dripped down the wrist and onto the withered tree of life. Call. A blazing flame ignited on the tree of life. At the same time, a powerful breath of life made the tree of life, which was about to wither, stand up straight as if it had taken a big tonic. Blood continued to flow, dripping on the roots of the tree of life. Boom. The seedlings of the tree of life burrowed through layers of soil at terrifying speeds, and instantly rose to a height of hundreds of meters. The brown bark is rendered with a golden glow. Golden red leaves grew on the forked branches, and sun-like flame patterns appeared on the tree. The seedling of the tree of life, no, it can no longer be regarded as a seedling now. Rhodes looked up at the golden tree of life, which was nearly a kilometer high and at least 100 meters in diameter. In just an instant, this seedling of the tree of life has already spanned thousands of years of growth. Directly entered a mature state. The indescribable terrifying vitality is piled up around the tree of life-like substance, blending into the entire quiet forest along the dense roots. The trees in the entire silent forest have become thicker and taller at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even those monsters seemed to have received gifts, and their aura became more terrifying. Drops of liquid full of life and fiery breath condensed on the branches and leaves of the tree of life, slowly dripping onto the ground. A huge life lake, completely condensed from the pure life force, gradually condensed and took shape. Life, nature, sun, brilliance, heat. The lake exudes countless chaotic forces. When all the forces come together, a huge embryo in the lake condenses and takes shape. Wow! The thick roots of the tree of life lift the embryo up from the bottom of the water. Looking at this translucent embryo, a feeling of blood connection came to my heart. Am I going to be a father? An incredible thought flashed through Rhodes' mind. Are you about to become a father out of nowhere? What's more, a child born from a tree. This is simply outrageous. Rhodes was speechless, and the forest banshee next to him was also shocked. Looking at the mother tree that grew to thousands of meters in an instant, and the embryo that was rapidly gestating. Looking at Rhodes with disbelief. Just drop a few drops of your own blood on the mother tree. Just let the mother tree grow to this extent. Who is this guy? The roots of the tree of life hold up a huge embryo. With the irrigation of a large amount of life breath, the embryo gradually grows. With every breath, a low heartbeat can be heard inside the embryo. Puff. When the golden embryo is completely formed, it dissipates like a rain of light. A tall, fair-skinned blonde woman stood up from her crouched position. The long golden hair shines like the sun, and the emerald-green pupils exude a rich aura of life. Pointed ears, golden leather armor, and a look of indifference on her beautiful and proud face. The looming flame lines shine on the exposed skin, and there is a powerful wave of magic power all over the body. This fluctuation of magic power even surpassed that of the forest banshee. Almost comparable to a demigod. She was the first elf born from the tree of life, and was favored by nature and loved by the tree of life. Born to be pampered by the rules of this world. He possessed semi-god level combat power from the moment he was born. Elf. No. It seems a little different. Rhodes rubbed his chin and carefully observed the elf in front of him. Most ordinary elves control the power of nature. The awakened magic is mostly related to nature, the earth, and vegetation. But the elf in front of him exuded a wave of magic power that did not belong to the elves at all. Like a sun, emitting blazing flames. This feeling seems to be very similar to his magic power of the sun. There is also a powerful breath of life mixed in, a bit like his immortal body. In addition to these, the magic of disaster, the magic of robbery, the power of commandments. All his magical properties seem to have been inherited by this elf. Of course, there is still a big gap compared to him. It's more like him after the magic effect has been greatly weakened. It was obvious that while his blood was watering the tree of life, part of the magical properties were also inherited by the tree of life. The elves he gave birth to also inherited some of his magical properties. The power of this elf is completely different from ordinary elves. They are more powerful and aggressive than ordinary elves, and the magic they control is even more terrifying. Strictly speaking, the tree of life that he cultivated with the blood of the holy spring is no longer a true tree of life. The tree of life, which is integrated with the magic power of the sun, inherits part of the effects of the sun's magic power, and can be called an ancient tree of the sun. The elves born from the ancient trees naturally cannot belong to the ordinary elves, but a brand new race. Perhaps we can call it a high elf, or a sun elf. Rhodes muttered under his breath. This brand new elven race was created by him. Everything is inherited from his bloodline. The power comes from him, and even the ancient sun tree appears because of him. He said that he was the ancestor of this elven clan and there was nothing wrong with him at all. Even if this elven clan can develop and grow to the same level as the elf forest. The faith of thousands of elves might be able to push his status as the ancestor of the sun elves to the altar. With the faith of the high elves as the cornerstone, he held high the kingdom of God, ignited the divine fire, and created another true god of the elves. The high elf god who is more powerful than the elf god. Of course, if you want to use the faith of the high elves as the cornerstone to ignite the divine fire, the power of faith required is also quite terrifying. At the very least, it will take thousands of years of development and reproduction before the number of high elves can barely meet the qualifications for becoming gods. Although it takes a little longer, there is hope at least. How many powerful creatures at the demigod level will never see the chance to become a true god in their lifetime? Father. The moment the woman opened her eyes, she felt the relationship between herself and Rhodes through the blood connection. He knelt down on one knee with a look of respect on his face. Puff. Rhodes clutched his chest and felt like he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. A woman who looked similar to him actually called him father. Although it is understandable from the blood relationship. But it's still a bit difficult to accept psychologically. But whether he accepts it or not, there seems to be no way to change this matter. However, he, a serious man who was not even married, asked a beautiful elf with a super figure to call him father. It's definitely not appropriate. People who don't know may think he is some kind of pervert. Any special hobbies? Change your words. You must change your words. Don't call me father, call me ancestor from now on. Rhodes thought about it and felt that the title, ancestor, was a good one. As for you, let's call you Gloria, the queen of the high elves, the sun elf Gloria. The first sun elf to be conceived by the sun god tree, naturally has the most terrifying qualifications. As the first high-level sun elf in this world, from the moment of birth, he has received the gift of nature, the favor of the ancient tree of the sun, and the favor of the will of the world. She has inherited all his magical properties and is simply a natural elf queen. Destined to be the ruler of all high elves. Rhodes looked towards the pool of life, where more high-level sun elves were being bred. However, these high elves who were subsequently born were not as lucky as Gloria. At most, it can only inherit part of his magical properties, and its strength will not exceed the Holy Realm level. Although the ancient sun tree is powerful, it does not yet have the means to produce sanctuary elves on a large scale. Not to mention the ancient sun tree, not even the original tree of life that has grown for tens of thousands of years in the forest of elves. Occasionally, it is difficult to give birth to a legendary ordinary elf. It is estimated that the strength of the second batch of high elves may reach the Holy Realm level at most, and the legendary level of the third batch will be the limit, and the number will not be too many. The High Elves who gave birth to the first 3 batches have the strongest strength and potential, but they will also consume most of the ancient Sun Tree's heritage. The number of High Elves born from the 4th batch will become larger. However, correspondingly, the strength will also be reduced to the level below the legend. However, no matter how much the strength is reduced, it will definitely be stronger than the ordinary elves. Rhodes is quite confident in his bloodline. Sun, disaster, robbery, love. His magic power and commandments were passed down to the ancient Sun Tree through blood. During the process of being conceived, High Elves usually inherit one of the magical properties. It can crush most magical creatures. After all, most of his magic power contains the power of the rule system. If he could inherit multiple magical properties from him at the same time, he would be considered invincible among his peers. Ancestor. Gloria looked at her with respect. Rhodes' words were the truth in her eyes. No matter what he calls him, it can't change Rhodes' status in her heart. From now on, you and this Banshee will be responsible for managing the Forest of Tranquility. Rhodes looked at the Banshee who had grown huge wings on her back. The Banshee's magic power is stored partly in her body and partly in her wings. Now, the Banshee's wings have grown again, and she has become a true sanctuary-level combat power. 1 demigod and 1 holy realm should be enough. The appearance of the ancient Sun Tree is bound to attract a lot of peeps. The Holy Church, demons, and even the elves. They are all elves, not necessarily friends. Just like the fallen Drow clan, they were originally just a group of ordinary elves, but they were bewitched by the Mother of Evil, causing changes in their souls and bodies. Living in the underground world and having a lustful nature, they are one of the few species that can rival the succubus family in terms of openness. Drow and Dark Elves, alienated elven races that are deformed from the elves, can be said to be the mortal enemies of the elves. In comparison, the High Elves are not much different. Ordinary elves can be transformed into more powerful High Elves by bathing in the water of the Pool of Life. The emergence of the High Elves is equivalent to carving up the faith that originally belonged to the elven gods. They may also face hostility from the elves. No matter what race or god they are essentially no different from ordinary people. As long as there are enough benefits, the kind and gentle elves will also take up weapons to cause killing. The battle of faith is more cruel than most wars. There must be a genocide of races and beliefs before it stops. After solving the problem in the Forest of Silence, Rhodes returned and walked out of the forest. Enter the castle and walk towards the palace. Before entering the palace, Rhodes saw a large number of heavily armed soldiers gathered around the palace. Count Francis, who was dressed in military uniform, looked in the direction of the silent forest with his eyes ready. An hour ago, the size of the Forest of Tranquility suddenly grew explosively. The Forest of Silence that was originally still some distance away from the castle has now spread almost to the outside of the castle gate. The civilians in the castle could even see the tall trees when they looked up. In particular, the giant golden tree, which is more than 1,000 meters long, exudes the brilliance of divinity. Just looking at it makes people feel depressed. There was panic inside the entire castle. He didn't know what was going on. It was probably the Banshee in the forest who was causing trouble. Now, the worst outcome is that the hero is killed by the Banshee. The kingdom of Francis will face the wrath of the silent forest. At this moment, he saw the familiar figure walking in from outside the palace. Why is it so lively? Rhodes walked in swaggeringly carrying an axe. Sir Rhodes, over in the forest? Francis asked with a surprised look on his face. All the troubles have been solved. From now on, civilians can freely enter and exit the Forest of Tranquility. As long as they do not actively attack the monsters in the forest or cut down trees on a large scale, the monsters in the forest will not take the initiative to attack. However, the curse on the princess still needs to be exorcised by me in order to be lifted. Count Francis looked at Rhodes, doubtful. The battle in the forest was so terrifying that even the aftermath left the entire castle crumbling. However, no one is sure whether Rhodes defeated the Banshee. Your Majesty the King. Oh no, the princess suddenly fell into a coma. Suddenly, a palace maid hurried over, her tone anxious. Count Francis's eyes widened and he ran directly towards the palace. Rhodes followed him without haste. The emergence and growth of the ancient sun tree caused the forest banshee's magic power to increase dramatically, and the power of the curse became even more terrifying. The curse was originally expected to be activated in a few days, but by chance, it was activated in advance. Come to the palace and enter Princess Aurora's room. The princess in a nightgown was lying on the bed with a quiet smile on her face. Who brought the spindle in? Didn't I order all the spindles in the entire castle to be burned down? Find out for me who secretly hid the spindle, and I will put this guy to death. The furious Francis was like an angry lion, roaring angrily. Not a spindle. Rhodes shook his head and glanced at Aurora's hands. The white and pink fingers had no wounds at all. Not a spindle. Count Francis was slightly startled. But that banshee's curse. Being pricked by a spindle doesn't mean it has to be in reality. If you are pricked by a spindle while dreaming, the curse will also take effect. Rhodes glanced at him. Do you really think the curse of a holy banshee can be broken so easily? What should we do now? Count Francis seemed 10 years older for a moment. What to do? Leave the room, of course, and leave the problem to me. Rhodes glanced across the faces of Francis and the Countess. Now in the entire kingdom, I am the only one who can save the princess. Francis's eyes changed. Whether he believed it or not, he could only place his hope on this guy now. When everyone leaves the room, Rhodes slowly walked to the bed. The elegant princess was lying quietly on the bed, her expression peaceful and gentle. There was peace on that beautiful face. The sleeping princess is so beautiful. Rhodes gently touched the princess's face. Clothes fell to the floor and the exorcism ceremony officially began. In her sleep, the princess frowned and let out a cry of pain as if she was sleeping. With the penetration of the power of the sun and the baptism of holy water, the curse on the princess was lifted. What happened? Aurora opened her eyes faintly and looked at Rhodes in front of her. I randomly felt something strange in my body. In order to facilitate the exorcism, Rhodes had no choice but to take off the princess's clothes. The princess, who had never been honest with anyone, had a blush on her face. You fell asleep just now, so you might not feel it. It just so happens that the curse in your body has not been removed yet. Continue the treatment. A gentle smile appeared on Rhodes' face. It's like looking at a docile lamb. Aurora's face turned slightly red, and she really felt that the curse in her body had not been completely removed. A few hours later, Rhodes slowly walked out of the room. Although exorcism is a physically demanding job, a professional exorcist like him has rich experience in exorcism. It was just a small curse that came easily to him. The holy spring provides unlimited vitality and physical energy, and this small loss can be replenished by drinking a glass of water. How's Aurora? Count Francis came over eagerly. Curse lifted. Rhodes' words immediately put Earl Francis's heart at ease. However, it took a lot of energy to lift the curse. She has fallen asleep now. It's best not to disturb her. Tell everyone not to disturb the princess's rest. Count Francis waved his hand. Now that the curse has been lifted, he is not in a hurry to see his daughter immediately. He looked at Rhodes next to him, with a pleased smile on his face. Sir Rhodes, you really did not disappoint me. I will hold a huge banquet to thank you for saving Princess Aurora and the Kingdom of Francis, so that all the people will remember your achievements. Furthermore, since you have completed my 3 tests, according to the agreement, I will announce your becoming the husband of Princess Aurora at the banquet, and I will also designate you as the future heir of the Kingdom of Francis. Have you thought about when to marry the princess? Marry. Rhodes rubbed his chin, lost in thought. These 2 words seemed too far away to him. At least so far, he has no such plans. Let's talk about the marriage later. Marriage is a man's grave, and he has no plans to bury it in the soil yet. Even if you get married, it is definitely not just a wedding for 2 people. Rhodes counted silently in his mind. The women around him almost formed a reinforced platoon. If you get married, you definitely can't favor one person over another. Francis was stunned for a moment and said nothing. After all, no one would refuse to be the master of this country. Whether they get married or not is just a matter of going through a process. The banquet was crowded with people. The whole castle was in a state of revelry. Count Francis had a relaxed smile on his face, a rare act of generosity. A banquet was held throughout the castle, allowing all the civilians to feast. As the protagonist of the banquet, Rhodes, dressed in a slim-fitting dress, was surrounded by countless nobles. "How do you feel about this atmosphere?" Count Francis, holding a glass of red wine, slowly walked over. "I don't really like this kind of social interaction." Rhodes, who finally escaped from the crowd, shook his head. His eyes followed the window of the castle and looked out the window. "If you want to become a qualified noble, this kind of entertainment is essential." Earl Francis shook his head. He had also reached his current status from a commoner. It took a long time to slowly adapt to the aristocratic life. Rhodes raised his eyebrows noncommittally. "Upper-class society has upper-class rules, and if you want to fit in, you must follow these rules. However, if you are strong enough, you can ignore all the rules." That is naturally another way of saying it. Earl Francis is just a count, so naturally he can only follow the rules of this circle. But he is different. Some people are destined to be the protagonists of everyone's attention just standing there. His strength is destined to make him the one who sets the rules. Even gods are not qualified to control his will. During the banquet, Earl Francis publicly announced that Rhodes was the husband of Princess Aurora. And he is also the future heir to the kingdom of Francis. It is finally over. The banquet ended and everything returned to calm. Rhodes walked around the palace and finally returned to the hotel. Thinking of the demonic energy that has not yet been removed from the body of succubus Frey and Euphemia. Rhodes felt that tonight was destined to be another busy day. Sign in. Open black lens bracket ding. Sign in successfully. Close black lens bracket. Reward. 7 deadly sins of wrath magic, full counterattack. Full counterattack. Counterattack all magic damage received multiple times. Close black lens bracket. Rhodes' eyes lit up. If he remembered correctly, there were 2 types of full counterattack magic. One is to counterattack all magic attacks multiple times to the enemy. The other is to counterattack all physical attacks multiple times at the enemy. What he now has is the counterattack magic of Meliodas, the Sin of Wrath. It only has the effect of counterattacking magic. Theoretically, as long as the power of the magical attack does not exceed the limit he can withstand, he can counterattack all non-physical attacks multiple times. The magic power counterattacks, hitting me is equivalent to hitting yourself. This magic power is invincible. Are you willing to leave so soon? After packing her luggage and everything, Yulia looked at Rhodes sitting in the carriage with playful eyes. "I thought you were with Princess Aurora just now and you would be addicted to it. Although the reputation of Princess Aurora is not obvious. But how ugly can a beauty that can be blessed by fairies be? If the princess was an ugly woman, based on her understanding of this fool, it would be impossible for her to do it. Do I look like the kind of man who will be dragged down by women? A man has his ambitions in all directions, and a woman will only affect the speed at which I draw my sword." Rhodes said calmly. In fact, if not, there was a Snow White waiting for him. He really wanted to stay with Princess Aurora for a few days. He also thought about letting Aurora go on a journey around the world with him. Unfortunately, it was rejected. In Aurora's words, as the future heir of the country, he must learn how to handle government affairs. Since Rhodes was going to go on an adventure, it was natural for her as a wife to share the burden. This woman is so sensible that it makes people feel sad. Even knowing that he had an ambiguous relationship with another woman, he didn't mention it at all. However, Rhodes was not worried about her safety. There is only a wall between the kingdom of Francis and the Forest of Tranquility, protected by a demigod sun elf queen and a sanctuary forest banshee. There is also the power and protection of the ancient sun tree. Even if the gods come, they can't hurt her. The treasure house guards dragged the carriage and slowly left the castle. As they passed through the silent forest, Gloria wearing a crown on her head came towards her. Demigod. Yulia's whole body tensed up, and her hair stood on end. He looked at Gloria, who was walking slowly with a wary face. It's scary enough to have a sanctuary-level banshee in the silent forest, but why did a demigod-level elf suddenly pop up? Did she break into the elf forest? However, why does this elf look a little different? Yulia looked at the approaching elf queen Gloria, with a strange color flashing in her eyes. It's not like she has never seen elves before. She even keeps an elf slave in the imperial capital to tidy up the flower beds. However, this elf seemed a little different from the elf in her impression. That hot and aggressive aura was like a replica of that fool. It's completely different from the natural and friendly feeling that normal elves have. Ancestor. Gloria bowed slightly, and under the cloak behind her, 3 palm-sized elves carefully revealed their heads. Fairy. Rhodes looked at the 3 palm-sized female goblins with an expression of interest in his eyes. If he guessed correctly, these should be the 3 goblins who raised Aurora. However, it seems that they have been attracted to Gloria. Rhodes looked at the golden crown on Gloria's head. The surrounding elemental power seemed to have wisdom, flowing into Gloria's body under the crown. With the blessing of the crown, Gloria's aura seemed to be even stronger. The wind element gives her lighter speed, the fire element gives her hotter flames, the water element gives her powerful vitality, and the earth element gives her powerful defense. This crown should come from the blessing of the 3 fairies, and it is also a very powerful blessing. Ordinary blessings cannot increase the power of a demigod to such an extent. Disaster. Destroy. It's redemption, but it's also evil. You will save the world and bring light, or you will plunge the world into eternal silence and darkness. Suddenly, the 3 goblins hiding behind Gloria said in unison. Rhodes suddenly felt a powerful force born out of thin air in his body. The magic power is like boiling water, growing rapidly. Thanks for watching, subscribe and support my channel.